Did I just start like a United Nations issue, like a diplomacy issue? I don't know, whatever. Maybe I'll edit this out. You didn't think I only had one sparkly hat, did you? This one's older than the other one. We're talking about fashion school today, so I thought this one was more appropriate. Anyway, hey, party people. Let's talk about fashion school. Let's talk about how to make the best of fashion school. All right? So, first of all, and I think this is going to be a surprise to some of you, but I really do think this is the most important one. Okay? Number one, make friends. Okay? I don't think you thought it was going to be that one, but I want you to make friends. I want you to make friends. Let me tell you, I went to fashion school in the Jurassic era. Okay. And I'm still friends with fashion school friends. And, you know, my girlfriend Susie from fashion school, she read the first draft of my book. It's in layout right now. I just got the first layout and I'm going over it, you know, putting all my notes on the first draft of the layout. It's all very exciting. Anyway, I sent the manuscript first to Susie and be like, you know, make sure I don't have any like glaring errors or something, you know? Okay. I have had freelance projects passed down from my friends. I interviewed a lot of my friends for this channel. And if you watch my interview last week with Melissa, then you know that having industry friends is so important for your sanity because nobody else is going to get what's going on with you like people who are in there, in the muck, the same muck as you. And fashion school, you know, any university program is hard work. And so you need that moral support. You need that mental health. You need your teammates. You know, I have so many good memories of fashion school. Like I remember one that really stood out in my mind while I was preparing my notes for this video. Senior year, we're getting ready for the show, and I had this massive ball gown, okay? And I had to hem it. We're running low on time. And a bunch of the juniors, they also participated in the graduation show, but their pieces were like not as elaborate as the seniors' outfits. And so a group of juniors, I wish I had a photo. But a group of juniors just sat on the floor of senior studio hemming my ball gown for me while I was running around like a chicken with his head chopped off, doing, you know, other things. I wasn't just like sitting around napping. No, I was like trying to do all these other things to finish up for, you know, my senior show pieces. And they hemmed my gown. Just stuff like that. There's a particular party jam that I cannot listen to without thinking about staying up late in senior studio with some of my classmates. And you're going to need that, you know, when you are up at 3 a.m. and you really feel like you cannot finish this outfit. You're going to need your friends, and you're going to learn from your friends. You're going to do study groups and study for those art history exams together. You know, and yeah, when it's 3 a.m. and you're in senior studio and you have to do that thing, but you forgot how to do that thing, and you're looking at your notes and you're like, what happened there? You're like, hey, y'all, do y'all remember when our teacher demoed that one thing? I think I fell asleep. I don't remember the demo. Okay. I remember one time during senior studio, one of my girlfriends, she sewed over her fingernail. Not her finger. There was no blood, but she sewed over her fingernail, and she was like, I think it's time to go home. Those memories, those moments, they're going to get you through the hard times. You're going to hug each other through the good times. You're going to need that. You're absolutely going to need that. And listen, social skills matter. I'm going to tell you in the rest of this video important things like networking and stuff. So social skills matter, and you need to develop your social skills. You need to make friends. Let me tell you this story. I think it's been long enough. I'm not going to name any names. There was this myth around this one particular student because apparently she was the designer to end all designers. She was the superstar of her class. Okay. And I was an underclassman while all this was happening. And everyone wanted to check out her work. Her work was unbelievable. Everyone thought she was really going to go places. And sure enough, when she graduated, word on the street was that she had been hired to be an assistant designer at a big house in New York. And honestly, that's everyone's dream in fashion school, right? Is to get one of those like assistant designer jobs at a really nice fashion house. Okay. And she got one of those plum gigs. But the story I heard later on was she was there for a while and then she just couldn't handle it because she couldn't get along with anybody. She didn't know how to work with people. She just couldn't be in that group dynamic and be in meetings and collaborate together. And so I don't know if she was fired or let go or she decided to quit because it was just not a good situation. But I did hear that she ended up working at Starbucks for a year. So she would force herself to talk and engage with strangers and develop those just like social skills. And I lost track of her, but those things are important. I do remember she was a very quiet, studious type. Like, my girl Susie, she's the quiet, studious type, but when she needs to talk to people, she can talk to people. So, yeah. Or, just make friends with the class loudmouth. I think that's what Susie ended up doing. The next thing I want to talk about is ask for disabilities accommodations. When I was teaching at a university, I taught veterans with PTSD. I taught deaf students who needed an in-class interpreter. I taught neurodivergent students who maybe needed a note taker in class, needed a cushion on some deadlines. Those accommodations exist. Well, they do in the US. I know the kind of legal, ethical, moral accommodations for students with disabilities differ from country to country, but in the US, you should be able to go to your administration at your university, at your college, and ask for specific disabilities related accommodations. So, of course, every school is going to be different, but if this applies to you, then I would encourage you to seek it out and see if you can get some accommodations so that you can do your best in your classes. Next, I want to talk about your graduation requirements. This is a bit of a horror story. Like, I didn't realize that this was a thing, and I was really horrified when I heard about it. But every once in a while, someone would tell me about how she had to do another semester because she didn't get all her graduation requirements and took too many electives when she was putting together her class schedule. And, when I was going to school, I went to a school that did not have very many electives within my major. But when I taught at a university with so many electives. The university I taught at was very big. It had a lot of different fashion majors like, marketing, merchandising, design, like a lot of different things. And so there were a lot of electives available. And sometimes, while as amazing as that is, it can be a little bit confusing to keep track of what your graduation requirements are for your specific major. And it's no one's responsibility but your own as the student. So you need to check in with your counselor periodically. When you are signing up for your classes for the next semester, the next year, always double check that you're on track with your graduation requirements. Make sure that you're only taking as many electives as you have room for. This is going to be especially important if you switch majors at some point, which a lot of students do. So always make sure that you're checking with your counselor, you're on track with your graduation requirements, you know what else you have left in order to graduate by your specific target date. When I was going to college, everyone just assumed you would be done in 4 years. That was just the thing. It's like 4-year school. That's just kind of how we talked about it. But when I was teaching, which was several years after, I worked in the industry before I started teaching, it was like, well, some people want to do better in their classes, so they take fewer classes a semester. Some students are going to summer school. Some students are working, so they have to take fewer classes. So, I have students who take 5-6 years to graduate. Nothing wrong with that. It's just life is different now. It's a little bit less straightforward. And so you just want to make sure that you kind of have a target date for your graduation and that you have, your classes in check so that you don't have like a surprise semester. You know, if you think you can graduate in 6 years and that's going to be at your most successful, that's fine. It's just you don't want that surprise semester because you forgot to take that one class that you were supposed to take 3 years ago. And you see what I'm saying? Okay, so you need to keep on track with that. Speaking of electives, you know, people ask me all the time, you know, what classes should I take if I have the option? Anything involving fabrics and laws. Okay. Melissa and I talked about this last week also, but a designer can never know too much about fabrics. Period. Okay, that's our medium. That's what we are using. And the more you know about fabrics, the more you can design, the better you can design, the more ideas you can come up with, because now you know the potential of all these materials you're working with. And then, you know, anything, I took a class in college called Apparel Manufacturing Practices, where we went over labeling laws and, you know, pro formas and import tax, costing. Those things are really important. And if you can take a class like that, absolutely, take that class. Next, I want you to get to know your teacher. And they can be the source of your first internships and first jobs out of school, like they were for me. Okay. Here's the thing about teachers. They know when you're kissing their butts. Okay. They know. They might not act like they know because they're just like, let them make a fool of themselves. But they know. Okay. They know. They can tell. Okay. Here's the thing. You don't have to like your teacher. You don't have to like them on a personal level, you know, but don't kiss their butts. Just treat them with respect and civility and call it a day. Without being fake chummy is better. I would rather a student, and I speak from experience, I would rather a student just respect, you know, just treat me with respect and civility in class rather than the fake chummy. If you're having any sort of trouble with your class, talk to your teacher. If you feel like you're not doing well in your first few assignments, like you're getting your grades back and you're like, wow, that was a lot lower than I thought it was going to be, go talk to your teacher. Okay. I had a student once who came up to me and said, hi, Zoe, I'm very excited about your class. And I know we just went over the supplies for this class, except I'm so broke. I'm super broke. And I was wondering if you could give me perhaps a shortened list of the materials that we would need the first few weeks, and I could buy those first, and then I could go buy the rest later. And I was more than happy to do that for him. And then later on, he's like, hey, Zoe, you want to know why I don't have money right now? And I'm like, whatever. You know, I was broke in college too. And I'm like, okay, if you want to share. He had these 2 Great Danes, okay? We're still in touch, so if he's watching, he's going to know who he is. He had 2 Great Danes, and I don't know if you know anything about Great Danes, but they're less dog and more small horse. They're huge. He's like, yeah, I got to feed my babies. So, you know, just talk to your teacher about stuff, you know, like just be like, hey, this is my situation. What can I do to still continue to be successful in this class, but, you know, work around this situation I have. And make sure you're just clear, like, I want to do well in this class. However, this is my life situation. I'm not trying to make excuses. I just want to work around this the best way possible. I had the student. Here's the thing. One day I get an email from my boss saying a student was complaining about the way I was grading. And I was surprised to hear which student it was because, number one, they were already passing my class. They weren't making A's or anything, but they were passing. And number two, he had never spoken to me one-on-one, not once, not ever. And he was very upset. And he was kicking up a big fuss, and his family was talking about suing the school because I was so unfair and that I must be racist and things like that. And my boss did not want me to come to the meeting because he did not want me to engage with the family. So he went to the meeting and met with the student's grandmother, and the student's mother was on speakerphone during the meeting. And there were some other people from the school at the meeting. So my boss and I met, and he went over the student's work. And of course, the grades are all marked on the back of each of the assignments. And I explained to my boss why I graded this and why I graded that. We went over all the homework, and he's like, okay. And then he went to the meeting and he spoke with them. And long story short, in that class, one of the assignments was to draw hands. They were supposed to practice drawing hands. And in that assignment, he had drawn, and I tell students, like, practice drawing hands that you would not normally draw, like hands on a waist or hands hanging while you're walking, something like that. So any pose of hand is fine if you think you're going to be using it in a future illustration for a design project. So in this assignment, he had drawn a few hands where it was flipping me the bird. Well, it just had its middle finger sticking up, but the grandma saw that. And I guess she was super old school, and she was furious. She was like, you are being so disrespectful to your teacher. How dare you flip your teacher the bird? What is this? And she smacked him upside the head in the middle of the meeting. We hung up on mom. The meeting was done. Not a peep about somebody suing. Nobody. Grandma shut that down. Grandma shut that down fast. And I never heard a peep from that student ever again. He came to class. He never said a single word. He turned in all his homework. He passed. Still didn't get an A. He passed. And just, it's like it never happened. If you ask me to describe what his voice sounds like, I could not tell you if you even put a, to my head, because he just never spoke up in class. He never tried to engage in a conversation with me. He never tried to ask me. He just became this whole thing, and then he got busted by his grandma for it. So, yeah. Just go talk to your teacher. Just go talk to your teacher. Let's talk about internships, okay? I'm not going to get into the whole unpaid internship thing. I've spoken on it a lot. And, basically, if you are a one-woman shop and you hire a friend of a friend of a friend's kid, and you have them come in a couple times a week, and you feed them lunch and give them rides home, and you can't pay them more than that, okay, whatever. But if you're a global brand, and you can't put together some chicken scratch for your summer intern, maybe you skip that one extravagant weekend overseas and plunk your butt down in your living room and try a little introspection. Oh my God, I said I wasn't going to get into the whole unpaid internship thing. Anyway, internships and jobs, okay? Number one, ask the school if they have a job board, okay? Schools should have some way of helping students get jobs. Ask the school if they have a job board, online job board. Ask the school if they have a career services department. My alma mater had both, okay? And, if they don't have one, ask them why not. If you're not in school yet and you're watching this video in preparation for school, and you haven't chosen your school yet, maybe that should factor into which school you decide to go to. God, has it been 2 years now? Oh my God, it's been 2 years. My girlfriend Susie, she wanted to get her master's in sustainability in fashion, okay? And so we visited 3 different master's programs across Europe. We would go on these meetings, and, she pretty much asked me to come along because I am the loudmouth friend. And so I would ask, anytime we would meet with the admissions department of each of these schools, I would ask them, well, what do you do to help students find jobs? And there was one school where they're like, oh, well, that's up to the student. We don't do the work for the student. And I said, I'm not saying go find them a job. I said, what do you do to connect them with businesses in the industry? Do you have any connections in the industry? Do you have any sort of job listings that companies can write on your website? Do companies know that you have a good program and seek out your graduates to hire them? Like, do you have like anything like that? I mean, I'm not saying they have to find my friend a job. I'm saying, are you pursuing those opportunities for your students so your students, by their own merit, can use that introduction to go to interviews and things like that? And she looked at me like I had grown a second head in the middle of, okay, I'm not going to say what country it was, but yeah, other schools, they have all different answers for how they help students find work after. And you should really take that into consideration. Now, if you're already in school and it's like, okay, I'm here. Number one, again, talk to your teacher. Okay. Maybe they've heard of some opportunities. Okay. A lot of fashion school teachers are part-time teachers. They're called adjunct faculty, are part-time teachers who are still working in the industry. So they might have positions at their own studio. They probably have friends in the industry. Maybe they've heard of someone who's hiring. Another thing you can do is go to fashion events, volunteer at these events, and network with people that you meet there. Okay, networking is going to be the thing that gets you jobs, that gets you internships, that introduces you to other people. Okay, so go to fashion events. I went to fashion events, like my school introduced, like, arts organizations would contact my school and be like, hi, we need like a dozen student volunteers to work backstage and dress models. And so they would announce it in class and be like, anyone want to volunteer? And we'd all sign up, whatever. And they would pay us in drink tickets, and we would run around, after working, meet other people, meet kids at other schools, meet people working in the industry, that sort of thing. Back to school. Let's go back to school. Okay. Hit the library. Libraries have more resources than books. They have periodicals too. Also, a lot of schools have free student memberships to expensive forecasting services like WGSN. And even if you're kind of like, I don't know about trend forecasting, you should check it out so you could see what is going on. So when people talk about WGSN, you know what they're talking about, or any kind of forecasting service. So ask your school if they have that sort of thing, or if they're able to access that sort of thing, if they can look into it for you. Maybe, like they hadn't thought about having it in their library before, but if they get, if the librarian's like, hey, we're getting a lot of these requests from students, maybe I, take it up the chain and ask if that is something that we could provide for our students. So there's that. Also, a lot of libraries, they have like sister libraries or part of programs where they can ask for books and periodicals that actually belong to a different library, and they can share resources. They'll ship it over to the library and you can borrow it. So there are some situations like that. So you can ask your librarian like, hey, is there any, this book is at this library, or maybe can you see if another library has it that we can borrow? Like, is there any program like that available? So your libraries are a great resource, not just your fashion school library, but your city's public library. Okay, there are so many things at your public library. Go get a library card. In my city, you can rent power tools. Okay, you can rent power tools through our city library for cheap, not for free, but for really cheap, much cheaper than like Home Depot or Lowe's or any of those kinds of places. And listen, you're like, I'm a fashion major, Zoe. When am I using power tools? Listen, okay, I did a menswear project my senior year, and I had to sand down the inside of a leather because I really liked the outer finish, but the whole leather was too thick. So I don't even want to tell you how many hours sandblasting the inside of a huge cow skin. Okay, so anyway, take advantage of travel opportunities. Okay, when I was in school, they had this trip where you could go to Paris with the school group. They had a flight and hotel deal that was cheaper for the students. And all the museum trips were chaperoned by our professors. And then during the day, we went on these field trips with our professors. And then at night, we could do whatever we wanted. And kind of the thing was like, don't get arrested, show up for the field trip at 8 a.m., the end. That was just kind of the unspoken rule. Anyway, that trip was amazing. It continues to be one of the highlights of my life. Shenanigans. 10 days. Shenanigans. I was 19. Shenanigans, okay? See if your school has any sort of school-sponsored trip, whether it's a short 10-day trip like that, or any study abroad opportunities, especially if that study abroad opportunity takes you to a fashion capital, okay? And take that opportunity to study, because even if you do have to pay out of pocket, it will probably be one of the cheapest travel opportunities of your life. And the opportunity to travel, get to know another culture, spend some time in a fashion capital if you're not already in one, so invaluable. Go network, go make friends in your new place. Maybe, maybe you grew up at home and were still living at home while you were going to school, so you get an opportunity to stretch your wings a little bit. Maybe you want to move to a particular city after you graduate from school and you get to have that experience for a while. If you can swing it, I highly advise that you look for those opportunities. Before I get to my last points, I just want to address a question I received in my community tab the other day. Someone left a slightly panicky sounding sort of question. If you can answer a question about strengths and weaknesses, for example, say someone's 3/4 of the way through school or on that final stretch, and no matter their efforts with the time afforded, they just aren't a great seamstress, yet they kill it on illustrations and color stories, or they're whiz with software. Some people just don't excel at certain things. Does the industry allow for such dynamics and skill level? Listen, there are very, 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 very few people who are good at everything, and that's fine. They go on to have careers that play to their strengths. I mean, you're really talking about the majority of people. The majority of people in the world who continue to thrive in their fashion design careers, they're good at some things and not great at others. I say often, you don't have to be a beautiful seamstress as a designer, okay? You have to understand construction. You have to understand how clothes come together. You have to understand how to alter them to create the designs that you want. But like literally sewing a beautiful baby roll hem out of dancy pantsy organza is not something that's going to stand in the way of your design career. I think that people who are 3/4 of the way done with their degree are feeling a little bit of that panic. So I'm not trying to make fun of you or anything. I would like you to just like really embrace what you can do and, continue to work on the things you can't do. But I want you to realize that that's everybody. That's everybody. Everybody I know is good at something. Like a lot of the time I'll have students who are really good at drawing and enjoy drawing. So they took my advanced fashion illustration class, which was an elective, and because they wanted to draw some more. Some took that advanced fashion illustration elective because they were such crap at drawing and they felt they needed to improve on it. So they joined my class. Okay. You're all over the place. The skills moving forward, you should probably take a look at my fashion careers video where I talk about where I think the fashion industry is going and what sectors of the industry are going to be kind of dying out and what fields are going to have more jobs available, which sectors are going to be growing. So if that'll put your mind at ease, I recommend that video. On that note, okay, I have 2 more things I want to say about fashion school. Number 1, take your breaks. Pace yourself, because fashion school and your entire career is a marathon and not a sprint. Go on vacation. Do not cram every break with more studying. Okay? Yeah, you have your deadlines, but it's like, take your breaks when you can. Go hang out with your fam when you can. Take that nap. It's okay. Because really, the last point I want to talk about is don't worry about your grades so much. Okay. And I'm going to throw this disclaimer out there for all the people who always want to but Zoe me. Okay. I know you have to pass your classes. Of course, pass your classes. And I know that some of you need to keep your grades at a certain point because you have a merit-based scholarship. I got it, okay? I have been in that position before, but otherwise, I literally do not remember my GPA because literally no one has asked me for my GPA. Literally no one, okay? And honestly, maybe it's different in other countries, but I seriously doubt it. It's like, did you get your degree? What was your major? When did you graduate? Those are questions people might ask you, but what your GPA was, nobody really cares. Nobody really cares, okay? Here's the thing. I am in contact with many of my former university students on social media. And the ones I see who are still working in the fashion industry, who are thriving and working and pumping out good work, they are not my A students, okay? The majority of them are not. They are the students who really just engage with me in class. They engage with their fellow students in class. They ask thoughtful questions. They tried their best to answer questions I put forth to the class. And you know what? It's okay if you get the answer wrong. It's not your job to know everything. You're there to learn, okay? They engaged in critique, okay? Which is so hugely important in your professional life, to learn, to practice, and to learn how to give thoughtful critique based on the criteria given, to be kind and respectful when giving constructive criticism, when you can show that you have an eye for good elements and an eye for elements that need work. These are major things that designers need to learn and practice as they move their way through their careers. Okay, the students that really engage with me, who really acted like they were paying thousands of dollars to be there because they were, okay, they are the students who stand out in my memories and who are working in the industry, showing at New York Fashion Week, having their own businesses. Those students, okay, they're the ones who really made the effort to learn, and that's what it is, okay? Learning as much as possible, not necessarily getting the pristine, perfect A's, okay? So, that's my advice for making the best of fashion school, okay? Drop me your questions and comments below, share, subscribe, give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new today, and I will see you in the next video.